Well, switching gears, a major announcement by Fox Business Network. They are dropping 3 of their primetime shows, including the show Freedom Watch, hosted by Judge Napolitano. Freedom Watch was one of the top-rated shows on Fox Business Channel, and so far there hasn't really been a reason given for the cancellation. And according to a Fox press release, Freedom Watch will be replaced by re-airings of shows run earlier in the day. I want to talk more about this, but first let's take a look at a few clips of Judge Napolitano that will give you a peek of his show and his viewpoints.
In what he has done and in what he will become, the Thomas Jefferson of our day, Ron Paul, is one of us.
But Senators McCain and Levin have added this legislation which would authorize the president to declare the entire United States of America, all 50 states and all territories, to be a battlefield.
The government of the United States shreds your rights every day. It taps our cell phones, it reads our emails, it kills people abroad with predator drones, it strip searches an 87-year-old grandmother in a wheelchair at an airport.
All right, so not your typical Fox News principles here. Judge Napolitano talks about Occupy Wall Street, the National Defense Authorization Act. He's been consistently pro-Ron Paul and anti-war. We'll also talk more about what the cancellation of this show means in terms of the public discussion. Let's go to Wayne Allen Root, a libertarian and author. He wrote the book, The Conscience of a Libertarian, Empowering the Citizen Revolution with God, Guns, and Tax Cuts. All right, Wayne, this was a prominent show and a different show for Fox. For people who aren't familiar with it, talk a little bit about what Judge Napolitano brought to the forefront of discussion on his show.
Sure. Hi, Christine. It's great to hear from you. And I think it's important to note that it is Fox Business Network. It's not a political network, so they were taking a very big chance with a show like Judge Napolitano's Freedom Watch. So it's not your typical show you'd find on a CNBC or a business network, so it was unusual. And so, you know, they've decided to replace it with business programming, not just with any reruns, but reruns of earlier business programming. So that does make sense to some extent. I'm a very good friend of Judge Napolitano. I'm honored to say he's a buddy of mine, so I'm sad to see it go, and I wish they had kept it on longer. The show was certainly eye-opening. It certainly was unusual. It certainly was different. There's nothing else like it on any American TV, let alone Fox News, in its libertarianism. Libertarianism, of course, is fiscal conservatism and also socially liberal or moderate, and also for civil rights and individual rights and personal freedom and economic freedom. And really no other show quite touches on it the way Judge Napolitano did at Freedom Watch. So very sorry to see it go, but not necessarily something you could be angry at Fox Business at, because CNBC would never allow a show like that on in the first place. So let's give Fox credit for being willing to take a chance on a very out-of-the-box libertarian TV show in the first place.
Well, they took a chance, and, you know, it's, A, not CNBC, and B, it is Fox Business Network under the umbrella of Fox. They took a chance, and it wasn't necessarily a failure, and we don't have to point our fingers here just at Fox, but let's talk about libertarianism, as you say. How does the coverage of libertarianism and of issues embodied by libertarians, you know, these issues aren't covered by MSNBC, CNN, or Fox. Why not?
Right. Well, here's the thing. Let me say, in the last 3 years, I've been a guest about 75 times on Fox News, and maybe once or twice on CNBC, never on MSNBC, never on CNN, and now I'm a regular contributor to FoxNews.com. So you can't say Fox News is anti-libertarianism or anti-libertarian or libertarian party. They certainly give us more coverage than any other network. That's not to say they're pro-libertarian. It's to say that from time to time, they tend to have a little bit of a libertarian streak. And I never attack my friends. I'd rather attack my enemies. So I try and be nice to Fox. But I will say this, libertarianism has 2 problems if you want to sell it. I'm the most honest person about libertarianism in this country. I tell you the weaknesses. Number 1 is libertarianism is not pro-corporations or corporate welfare. And when you're not pro-corporate and a TV network or a radio network has to sell advertising to corporations, you wind up with problems, which is why perhaps Judge Napolitano's show isn't on. Probably the same reason Glenn Beck's show is no longer on Fox News. There's a real problem selling an anti-libertarian, an anti-corporate feeling on a network that has to take ads from corporations, and that's just a reality of life. But number two, libertarians, Christine, can make a change that sells libertarianism, for number two. And the problem is, I don't know if you're a football fan, but Tim Tebow is the most exciting football player in America today. And after his last playoff victory, forget about football. It was a football victory, but 96 million people all over the world Googled John 3:16, his favorite biblical saying after he won that game. What makes Tim Tebow so special that he can sell religion while playing a football game? Enthusiasm, energy, passion. The Libertarian Party doesn't have a lot of spokesmen who have enthusiasm, who have energy, who speak on an emotional level to Americans instead of an intellectual level. And I think that's the big turnoff that's hurt the party and libertarianism for many years.
I mean, they
change that if we want to make it popular.
They may not have a lot of enthusiastic spokespeople, but they certainly have one, and that's Ron Paul. I mean, Ron Paul, I've covered him for years now. I've been at his rallies. I've been at his speeches. There is no lack of enthusiasm there. And I mean, let's talk about Ron Paul. Judge Napolitano spoke about him often, spoke about him in a very favorable light. That's probably, you know, I know a lot of viewers who watched his show were also major Ron Paul supporters. They're going abuzz on Twitter today after hearing about the cancellation of his show. So where will the next venue be? You know, as you say, the corporate media doesn't necessarily embrace libertarianism. So where can the next venue be for people like yourself, like Ron Paul supporters who have no lack of enthusiasm, be for this kind of discussion?
Well, first of all, I put an article out that Fox News was very willing and happy to publish, and millions of people saw it. And it was called, you know, the Ron Paul phenomenon, explaining and understanding the Ron Paul phenomenon. It was a lead story for almost an entire week at foxnews.com just a few days ago. So Fox News isn't anti-Ron Paul. They've got him as a guest more than any other network. And what I said in that story is Fox, the brand of enthusiasm and passion that Ron Paul brings and brings young people along with him has got to be embraced and accepted and not ignored or put down by the Republican Party, or they're not going to win the election. They can never beat Barack Obama. So I agree with you. Ron Paul brings an enthusiasm. I think what he lacks, though, is a bit of an excitement and youthful enthusiasm. I think that might be where Rand Paul comes in. I hope it's where I come in. You need young guys with enthusiasm, but Ron Paul brings a young audience, young kids, who are excited by fiscal conservatism and social moderation or liberalism, and that's got to be embraced by anyone who expects to be the next president of the United States. And where can they do it? Christine, I think it's got to be on shows like this, on internet TV shows just as much or more so than on regular TV shows that don't have corporate sponsorships.
All right.
It's going to have to be done in an out-of-the-box fashion.
Certainly a lot of people disappointed just in general because of, you know, they liked him and also because they hope that this doesn't mean the status quo is what prevails in this society. Always interesting hearing from you, Wayne Allen Root, 2008 Libertarian vice presidential nominee and author.